Greetings everyone, my name is Wes Darby and today we're going to talk about watercolor. So as you can see, I got a lot of clutter going on here. This is our plasticgraph. We're going to work with that later. You could also use like any kind of plastic grocery sack would work. We have regular tissue. We're going to use that later. Of course you need dry paper towel. I actually have a little bit of table salt in here. Sea salt would work great as well. Slightly different effect. We have this wonderful stuff called liquid frisket, and then we have masking tape, a white crayon. We have a this is what we're going to use as our dry brush. As you can see, it's slightly frayed and frazzled. It's a great dry brush. I love it. Then we have a brand new brush as well. This is a size 6. And then we have a nib here we're going to use to apply the frisket. We have a toothbrush specifically for art purposes, and then a pen just in case, a jar of water, and most importantly we have our palette, and I have our primary colors. We have crimson red, we have a lemon yellow I believe, and ultramarine blue. Alright, so we're going to pull this out, and I have a standard, it's not really standard, it's a drawing sheet of paper. It's not very heavy, it's not for watercolor, but just for our purposes we're going to use this. What I did is it's a 18 by 12 sheet, so I folded it in half, fold it in half, fold it in half, and then in half again, and then fold it the opposite way. And then now we have our spots. So our little locations here. The first thing what we're going to do is we are going to try to work with the salt first. And we're going to put that right over here. And the first thing I want to do is I want to get some water on my brush, and then I'm going to kind of take this brush over here. See, it's got a lot of water on the brush here. I'm going to kind of flick it a bit, and you can do that lots of different ways. Shake it on the side of the cup. Flick it off to the side a little bit, just don't get anyone else covered. So I'm going to take this brush, I'll move this in here, view the camera here. I'm going to take some blue, maybe get some more water here, get some blue, and I'm going to kind of throw down some of that blue there in a bit. And I'm going to grab some yellow, some more water. I'll throw that in there a little bit. Boy, I want some more water. Look at some red. Really want to get this a little more wet than that. Get some blue. Some more water, kind of get that in there a little bit. Get some of that blue and red going around. And then what we're going to do is grab some, let that dry just a little bit, and we'll grab some of our salt. Okay, and the longer you, for stronger effect, you're going to want to let this dry a little. And sea salt's going to have a more dramatic, large effect. You're going to really be able to notice it. I'm just taking table salt and sprinkling it on there. Now, if the water's too wet, if the paper's too wet, you're not going to see much of a change. But if you let it dry a little bit, you're going to see a little bit more effect. Basically, what's happening is the salt is absorbing the water. A very interesting effect. I'm going to get some of that out of that area there. Light blow there. Okay, we're going to let that stay there, let that dry. Do not touch it until it's completely dry. And then so what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the frisket section here. Very important, you should read art supplies to tell you wonderful things. It says shake well, shaking well here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this nib here. So let's say, make this interesting here. Oh boy. I'm going to draw this snowman type figure here. Okay. Let's just, who knows what the heck that is? Who knows? But then I'm going to take this brisket here. It's kind of orange. There's orange, there's white. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in. It's not the cheapest stuff in the world, so perhaps I won't fill in this whole character. Yeah. So we're just going to fill this in here like so. And I'm going to take this and dip that in the water there. You want to clean that as soon as you can, because if you leave it, it is going to do horrible things to your brush or your nib or whatever you're using it with. Toothpicks are a great option. So if you, whatever you use it, if you don't clean it right away, it's really hard to clean out of a brush. So I really would not use a brush. Basically, it's like rubber cement, and that would be very, very bad. Okay, so we're going to use our brush, and we're going to show you how to do a wash. So a wash is pretty simple. Just take some paint, put some water in there, mix this in here, and we're just simply going to, and I'm just simply going to I'm basically covering the paper, and this is my wash. Pretty simple. Alright, pretty simple. So if I was going to do a graded wash, it's slightly different. So what we're going to do is I'm going to switch here. I'm going to get my blue here. I'm going to get that a little more wet. The water in there. The great thing about watercolor paints is I can put these in here and then let them dry, walk away, go to my other classes or whatever. And then by the next day they should be pretty much dried, and then I can, sometimes they're not, but usually they are, and I can just add water and they come back to life, unlike acrylic, which once they're dry, they're dry. So and then I'm going to take some of this paint here, and then I'm going to put up here, and you can see where that water is. Now just add some regular water, grab it here and pull it down. Okay, keep pulling it down. So that did not flow very well, so I'll get that here. Works so much better when you have a plain surface and you can put it on an angle. So we're going to get a graded wash, and we'll try that over here again. I'm going to get some paint here, grab that right there, and see where that paint is. Then I'll take some of this, and I'll grab that and bring it down here, and bring it down here, and all that works. So it slowly fades. So that's what we're talking about, a graded wash. Now there's kind of a glare over there. A little bit better there. Sorry about the camera there. Alright, so wet on wet is the next thing we're going to experiment with. So just take your brush again. This time let's use the yellow. Actually, that works. Some yellow. I'm going to put that right on there. So it's dry paper. I'm going to fill that in with a water and the yellow paint. So now we have wet paint on there, and I'm going to take we'll take red, because red and yellow make what? Exactly, make orange. I'm going to paint that right on top of there. And if you're seeing all this little stuff right here, this little flecks, that is because we are using economic paper. And this economic paper kind of peels some of the paper off because it's wet. It's not meant to be used with that wet medium. Let's see if I can bring that closer to the camera there, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the flecks, and also there's that yellow there. So if we were going to draw wet on dry, I'll move this paper here just a little bit. Wet on dry. Let's take this red here. Wet on dry, pretty straightforward. And you can see how smooth that line is. Okay. We'll go back over to this wet one here. This time I'm going to do the wet paper. So I will get this wet. So the surface is pre-saturated with water. So I'll saturate that with water. Sometimes you'd want to do this with both sides of the paper. And so then let's say I'll take blue, and then I try to do the same thing. And look at that. S there and S there. Wet on wet. This kind of bleeds out. Where wet right here does not. So I'll lift that up just a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about on both of those. We're going to go, since we're over here, we're going to play with the masking tape. Now it's best if you go and look for painter's tape. That's the best way to go if you're looking for this at home. And usually it's the blue painter's tape. It's a couple bucks. Then I'm going to take this tape and I'll put that right down there. It's great with masking tape. It still works. It's just the acid's really bad for the paper. So if you're not worried about making it last as long as possible, then don't worry about it. So what I'm going to do is I have this masking tape down. Masking tape is great if you're trying to get a straight line, a hard edge, or if you're trying to cover something up. Sometimes that masking tape works. So take some of this red here, and now I'm going to go over, and I'm going to get some blue here just for the giggles of it. So I have these colors mixing, right, like so, and we're going to leave that there for now. Let that dry. While we're over here, we'll also go with a crayon. So we'll take this white crayon. You can use other crayons, but I'm going to use white. And so, let's see here, I'll draw a circle-ish thing. Problem with the white, it's really hard to see what you're doing. So I'm doing a really basic sun from like kindergarten. You guys can remember that wonderful place. And then, oops, I mixed my yellow and red, but that's not bad. That's not wrong. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to paint on top of. Yeah, grab some more water, grab some more paint. The reason why I like to use white is because if I used a different color, you'd kind of see that tinge of that other color. As you can see right now, that sun is exactly how I kind of sketched it out. So resist. Good old crayon resist. Alright, now we're moving on. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw down some blue. I'll take some red. And the more water I have on my brush, the darker the less dark it's going to be. So if I have very little water on my brush, more vivid. Oh, sorry, you guys didn't even see any of that. And then right there. So the less water, the darker it's going to be. Okay, so while it's still wet, I'm going to take this wonderful stuff, saran wrap, plastic wrap, whatever, and I'm going to place it on. You can bunch it up in some areas if you want to, or you can leave them flat. Alright, and we're going to leave that there for a little bit and let that dry. Looks like our frisket is still wet. Dry brush, we'll bust out that dry brush I showed you earlier. So we have our dry brush here, and there's lots of things you can do with it. So why don't we do a two-step plan? We'll take one of these, and we will get this yellow. And I'll put down this little swatch of yellow here. We got a little swatch of yellow. Leave that as it is. We'll come back to that and let that dry. So we're going to take our toothbrush, you're gonna splatter. And what's great about the toothbrush is it's more controlled. Of course, you can take a paintbrush and kind of get it a little wet and then flick it and put your finger out there, and that way it's got something to snap up against, and that's going to be slightly controlled, or you can just shake it and it's going to go kind of wild. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get some water in my tray here. Get some water with the brush, and I'm going to take this toothbrush here and put it in there, get it in there. Okay, so now it's in there. So then I'm going to take this, and here's a clean brush, so we're going to basically put my finger here and slowly pull back. But then I'm going to aim it. Okay? Just shake the excess off a little bit on the brush, there's no excess, and then we're going to pull it. Now if I pull faster, you're going to get this big effect here. So it depends on how you want to play it. So there's lots of different things you can do depending on the different effect. Now as you can see, it kind of went everywhere. So this is something you really need to practice, and not just go haphazard with that, because you'll have a few issues. Alright, so we're going to do, where are we at? I think we're pretty much covered everything. What I want to do, let's see, we'll go to the dry brush here. Take my brush, and we can take this brush here, and I'll take some red here. And then if you can see, I put the paint on the brush. Try to get the camera to focus it just a little bit on the tip there. Basically, I just put this in here. As you can see, I kind of have it like that. So then we'll just go here, and we can, and depending on how you're doing that, that could look like a lot of things. That could look like the beginnings of a flower. This is still kind of wet, but I mean, that would look pretty nice. Let's see if that was green maybe, and these were some flower petals, kind of like the Impressionists. You can do a lot with this dry brush technique. Okay, and we could also, if we just took a dry brush, we already showed you that step with the dry brush. Sorry, my mind just lost pace there, checking the time. And then one thing I love, this is probably my favorite things to use, is watercolor pencils. Oh, I love these things. Traveling, you could start a project and finish them later. Great thing. We're going to call this the traveling palette. What's great about the traveling palette, let's say you push down with your watercolor pencils, fairly decent pressure. You have your color swatch there. And let's say it's orange, and then you throw this color down here. We'll just do one more. Get some of these analogous colors, those next to each other on the color wheel. For those of you trying to work on your artistic vocabulary, always good to know those words. Never know when you might need them. So there you go. Those are my traveling palette. I could just sketch those down on a piece of paper, take my sketchbook, and go. And then happen to be in the field, and I want to, the field or wherever you want to paint. Pull out my paintbrush. You can bring those with you, or there's some paintbrushes that actually have water in the barrel. And so then I could go up to this and just dip it on here, and then I could draw over here, so it's great. And then you can clean your brush, and maybe I'll pick some of this up here, and then I'll add that to that, and kind of glaze it by having overlaying colors. That's one way to make it glaze. We can do that over here as well. And that is how you have a traveling palette. So you don't actually have to carry this plastic palette with you in the field. You could just take watercolor pencils, and they can be your portable palette. And then if you want to, you can throw away the palette later or what have you. Great thing also about watercolor pencils. Let's see if we can. I love blue and green. I love this analogous set of colors. Take this right here. Let's say we roll out one of my favorite exercises. Draw a ball here. Working on drawing that ball. There we go. All right, and we'll draw that table or what have you right there. We'll grab this brown here and throw out this table right there. This is a quick way of how you could work. I also love doing this with pen and ink. Sketch you're drawing out, and then in pencil, then go over in some areas in pen, and then do the rest in watercolor pencils. I really love that harsh texture effect. It's great. So let's say we kind of go over this. I love layering with color pencils, watercolor pencils, and then you go like that. So then we're here. Keep going. And love to use purple as a shadow, especially. I think that I just picked it up from studying the Impressionists. Black to me is just so harsh and controlling and final, where something like purple or blue is so much more has so much more life to it. So then I got that there, and then we can add some of this over here in the brown. Okay, so now we have our color. So let's say we're in the field and we just brought our watercolor pencils. Okay, just leave it, take it home, and when you have time, paint it. Or in this situation, what we can do is we can tell the paint what to do. We just basically go like that. Say that's what we're going to do. Make a little happy ball. There we go, just like Bob Ross. All right. Now I'll clean this off a little bit. I'll start up here. And I'll try to fade those smoothly while it's still wet. And now we have the highlight coming down right here. Take some of this water here. Always a great thing to practice, trying to use your values, create values in your work. Great skill to practice over and over again. And there we go. We got the light source, we got the shadow on the table. Looks fairly realistic. Excellent thing. One thing I forgot to talk about, and that is the wipe. So what we're going to do, it's a great technique for clouds and other such things. We're going to put this blue on here. That's not dark enough. I'm running out of paint, so I'll just use some of this purple, this blue, purple and blue, very light. So I'm running out of that good old paint. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take this tissue, scrunch it up like this. As you can see there, end up lighting that up. And so if we had some, let's get some blue here. We got watercolor pencils, so my paint's on the other side of the room, so we'll just go from there. Use this instead. So a watercolor pencil, throw that out like that. Get that. Oh, look at that vibrancy. Love that. Beautiful. Love that thing about color pencils. So I'm going to take this, and then I can dab. We can hold it down and might make some of it lighter. We can take some of this and create different values. Clouds. So there's lots of different things you can do with that. So let's go back. Let's see, it's really nice. It looks wet, but it's really not. So then I'm going to take some of this, and I think I have yellow left. So I'll take some of this yellow in here. Some blue as well. We'll just use whatever color I still have. And we'll make sort of brown, gray, chromatic gray. For those of you still working on your artistic vocabulary. It's not the prettiest color, and that's not my point. Alright, we'll let that dry for a minute. We'll go back here, check this out, pull that. We have a lovely, lovely texture effect going on right there. Awesome. Great for backgrounds. Are you dry? Not entirely dry. I do not think it is completely dry yet, but there is some nice grainy effect. You can barely see it in the camera. I really can't actually. But so check that out. Try sea salt next time. Sea salt's supposed to work a lot better than that. So this has almost wrapped up too soon. We have this over here. Paper's still a little wet. See if I can get this up. Nope, you got to be very slow about this. Look at that hard edge. Excellent. And you can cut masking tape. You could cut it. You can fold it. You can mold it. However you want to do it. And let's see over here. Still fairly dry. Well, fairly wet. Let's see if I can speed it along. You just take your finger or your eraser, and because this is cheap drawing paper, not watercolor paper, the Frisket is actually pulling some of the paper up with it. Does not do that on nice quality paper. So let that be a lesson to you. Use nice quality paper. Okay, 200 pound, you know, some practicing 140 would work. 140 can also work for some not so wet application as well. If you have any questions, please let me know. Don't forget to sign your work, otherwise you can't get credit. And it's still a good practice, right? Art's a journey. If you guys have any questions, please, sorry about that, please let me know. And most importantly, enjoy.